Very excited to talk about our recent trade. Very happy to be able to add both Freddy Peralta and Tobias Myers to our organization, to our team. Freddie has clearly established himself as one of the top starters in baseball, one of the most consistent starters in baseball over the past few years. A player I know well, a player I trust, and a player who I think is going to mesh very well with our organization, our team, and our city. Tobias is a player who's a great development story, had worked really hard to get to where he is right now. A pitcher who has demonstrated an ability to help a team both in a rotation and out of the bullpen. That versatility fits well on our roster, and I think he's going to help us as well. We've talked throughout the offseason about our desire to add to our starting pitching group, to find a starter who can pitch in the top half of our rotation, and I'm certainly very pleased that we're able to do this here with this transaction. And then before I take questions, just also want to thank our baseball operations department and our group. Really, since the moment we made our last out in Miami, we've asked a lot from this group. I've asked a lot from this group, and very much appreciate the work, the effort, the time that everyone from our leadership group in baseball operations to our interns have put in throughout this offseason. And with that, happy to take questions.
Our first question comes from Tony DeComo.
Hey, David, you just called him a player you trust based on your obviously longstanding relationship with him. I just want to dig a little deeper into that. What about him, gives him that reputation in your eyes?
Yeah, I don't know that it's only my eyes. I think it's probably anyone who's interacted with him, anyone who's been around him, and people who have watched him pitch for a long time. This is someone who, first and foremost, is a really good person. He meshes well with his teammates, with his organization. He's emerged as a really quality leader in the clubhouse and with the Brewers. And he's constantly getting better. And I had a front row seat of that during his development, during his first few years at the major league level. He was never satisfied. He wants to get better. And he's been able to get about as much out of his ability as any player can, and that's been fun to watch.
And then separately, there's been a lot of rumors around him specifically for a long time. Can you take us through just the entire timeline of whenever you first started talking to the Brewers about Peralta to obviously getting it done last night?
Similar to a lot of discussions that can happen over the course of the offseason, these began in November when the offseason started, and they took a lot of twists and turns and involved a lot of different names at various points, different constructs, different size of deals. I think talks probably accelerated over the last few days, and ultimately we were able to get it across the line for both sides last night.
Thank you.
Next question is from Dave Lennon. Dave, your line is open.
Yeah, so can you hear me?
We got you.
Okay, yeah, the button kept, sorry about that. First Zoom call. Dave, you started the off season with a lot of notable subtractions, obviously. And recently you managed to check a lot of boxes. How satisfied are you with that job you're able to do in checking a lot of the boxes that the team needed? Not a lot of off seasons, teams aren't able to do that often.
We feel good about where our team is. We think we've got a very good team. Certainly happy with the additions we've been able to make over the last couple of days and weeks. And also, frankly, really happy with the existing group we have coming back too. And we think we've got a lot of good young players. Clearly, anytime you're starting a position player grouping with Francisco Lindor and Juan Soto, you're starting from a really good spot. And so we're confident in this group. I think it's a group that's going to fit well together. And yeah, I am happy that we've been able to address the needs of the team as the offseason has gone along.
Thank you.
The next question is from Dan Martin.
Hey, David, I was curious now that you've done all this work, where you think you are in the division? I mean, do you feel like you guys are at the top of the division? Is this where you want to be?
We've got a really tough division. We've got some really good teams and some teams that are getting better. Until we win a division, we can't claim we're at the top. So we've got to keep going and we've got to keep working. And whether that's continuing to find every incremental edge that we can find from a roster construction standpoint, whether it's finding every incremental edge we can from a player improvement standpoint, from a game management standpoint, from a transactional standpoint during the season, we've still got work to do, and we're committed to doing it.
Thanks.
Your next question is from Abby Mastracco.
Yeah, given that, Sproat's a tough one to lose. So how important was it to get another starting pitcher back in this return?
Yeah, I think, we recognize that we've parted with some very good young players here, players who are going to have good major league careers. And that's part of it when you're acquiring a very good player in return. Brandon, as you mentioned, he's going to be a good player. Very tough for us to give him up. And I do not think we would have given him up in a deal where there was not a starting pitcher coming back.
What do you like about Tobias Myers?
I think Tobias, first and foremost, when you look at him, he fills up the zone and he goes right after people. He can zone up pretty much his entire arsenal. He's not afraid. He's pitched well in very big moments, as we saw firsthand a couple of years ago. And it's also the versatility and being able to have success in both the rotation and the bullpen. We like his ability to give us multiple innings out of the pen when needed, and also flex into the rotation if that's the way it goes. So that versatility, the roster flexibility that can come with it, will really help us.
David, I'm sure a lot of Met fans were a little nervous this offseason, not sure of what the outcome was going to be. It felt like Nemo, Alonso, Diaz leaving, and what was next. Can you talk about the anatomy of an offseason, of how it comes into play? Like just in the last 48 hours, you guys have been able to make some serious moves.
Look, off seasons are long, and I understand when fans see good players going elsewhere. You guys got me?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, you're on, David. Sorry.
Thank you. I understand when fans see good players leaving or going elsewhere at the front end of an offseason, they're going to be disappointed. It's also our jobs in the front office and in the organization to recognize how long an offseason truly is, to understand that there's often a whole lot of transactional activity that occurs in January, February, sometimes even March. There's going to be more acquisitions in baseball over the next couple of months. This offseason is not over. And so these things can take on a pace and life of their own every offseason. And so we understood, even as the subtractions were going on, we understood that there were going to be very good opportunities for us to make our team better, to continue to add pieces to be better. I didn't know that it was necessarily going to happen all at once in the span of a couple of days, but it has. And I'm happy with where our team is right now.
Next question is from Will Salmon.
Will, I think you're muted.
Will.
Sorry, the button, like Dave, was messing with me. What's your overall view of the starting rotation right now?
We like our rotation, and I think being able to add Freddy as somewhat of a stabilizing force to help lead our rotation probably gives a little bit of space to some of our younger pitchers, and keeps the opportunity for real bounce back seasons from guys like Sean Manaea and Kodai Senga, who we're still going to rely upon and still believe are going to give us some really quality innings this year. So we like where our rotation is. I think it's got a nice combination of youth and established Major League veterans. And we're also going to really like what we start the year with in AAA. And I know a number of those guys are going to contribute over the course of our season as well.
Next question is from Andrew Tretnick.
Hey, David. This is perhaps a little bit similar to Abby's question, but with the reality that Peralta is an unrestricted free agent at the end of this year, I guess how do you kind of square giving up two of your top 5 prospects in Jett and Brandon?
Always tough to give up good players, and those are 2 really good players. It's also the reality of what it costs to acquire good players coming back. We're acquiring one of the better starting pitchers in baseball, guy who's been really consistent, and it was going to hurt, and it does hurt, and giving up good players hurts, and those guys are going to be playing in Milwaukee for a long time, and we're going to be competing against them. We're also really excited to get Freddy and Tobias here, and I think both of those guys are really going to help us.
Next question is from Mike Fitzpatrick.
Hey, David. A couple of things, totally different actually, but to this point, you'd held on to your top prospects, your highest rated prospects, pretty tight. Just why was this the moment to make that type of deal? And just real quick, Matt Arnold on his comments last night said that that yesterday or last night was your wedding anniversary, and he thinks he may have interrupted your anniversary dinner. Just wondering if he was like serious about that or joking, or if you might share any of what that was like yesterday for you.
Yeah, no, Matt was serious. Matt was at my wedding 9 years ago, so Matt certainly knows that that was my anniversary, and so had some conversations at dinner, and then was able to wrap up the trade once we got home. And in terms of why now, I think it's a combination of where we see our team, what we thought was important to add to our team, and the type of players we're getting back. And when you add all of that up, we were comfortable giving up the type of quality that we gave up.
Thanks, David.
Next question is from Jorge Castillo.
Hey, David. Obviously, Peralta is a free agent, as was mentioned earlier, but you have signed him to an extension before. Are you hopeful that could be done at some point here?
I'm not going to speculate on that on day one here. We'll let Freddie get acclimated to the organization, and any conversations that we may have or have in the future, I think we're going to do our best to keep private and not talk about publicly.
And obviously, you've done a lot here in the last week. What's left? What's next? What do you want to do? What's left to do to improve this roster?
We're always open to improving the team. I think we've checked off some of the main goals of the offseason, but if there are opportunities to get better, we're going to explore them. We've still got time before spring training. I imagine there are going to be transactions in spring training as well. There always are. So we'll keep busy. We'll keep in touch with both the trade market and the free agent market. And in terms of what exactly is next, I don't know, but we'll keep working at it.
Next question is from Mike Vaccaro.
Ethan, thanks for deciphering my Zoom user pseudonym. Hi, David. I know that you're probably aware of the noise that's surrounding this offseason. I'm not sure how much of it you've heard or how much you paid attention to it, but just knowing that it was a lot, did that at all? I mean, I know you're aware of what Mets fans are like and what New York City as a market is like, but did that, even knowing that, was it at all surprising just how visceral it was for a while?
No, honestly, it wasn't. I think I and we as an organization knew what the response was going to be when we made some of the decisions we made early in the offseason. We completely understand it. I understand it. Those are tough decisions, and everything we did is in the effort to create a consistent championship caliber organization. Everything we do going forward is in the effort of creating a consistent championship caliber organization. And we also understand that some of those moves are going to be very difficult to digest, especially in the near term for a fan base. So I was not surprised, and we as an organization were not surprised by some of the noise earlier in the offseason.
Next question is from Tim Britton.
Hey, David, you've talked about adding Freddy as to the top half of your rotation, but there's kind of top half starters and there's number one starters. Wondering in your mind, is Freddy a kind of prototypical number one starter for you now?
Yeah, look, I think we have multiple starters in our rotation who at various points in their career have pitched as number one starters. Certainly Freddy qualifies as that. We saw Nolan flash potential as a number one starter last year. We have seen Sean Manaea pitch as an ace. Before I got here, Kodai Senga pitched as an ace. So I think we have multiple pitchers in our rotation right now that have pitched as an ace, and I would certainly put Freddy in that category.
Next question is from Jake Mintz.
How's it going, David? I'm curious, considering how much emphasis you placed on run prevention, kind of at the end of the season press conference you had, what gives you the confidence that the group that you have assembled for 2026 is going to be better on that front, particularly when you have two guys in the infield that will be playing completely new positions for them?
Yeah, so I think first we look at what our defense looks like up the middle, and we really like what our defense looks like up the middle right now. I think we're clearly better in some key defensive positions up the middle. There's no question we're asking two guys to learn some new positions. We're also asking two guys with very high baseball aptitude who are good athletes who have spent the majority of their careers at the shortstop position to learn new positions on the dirt. There's going to be learning curves. We're going to make mistakes. I also have a high degree of confidence that both those players are going to figure it out and be able to play their positions at a pretty high level.
Next question is Tony DeComo.
Hey, David, again. I just wanted to follow up quickly on Jorge's question. Generally speaking, when it comes to acquiring players, do you ever, or to what extent would you ever look at a negotiation and look at the player beyond the term that he's under contract? For example, do you always look at it in a vacuum? I'm giving up these players for this player and his contract term, or do you ever think about the possibility that it could be a longer relationship, especially with a player that you know well?
I think as you're evaluating a transaction where the player is under contract for a relatively short amount of time, you have to assume the player is under contract for a relatively short amount of time and make the transaction with those assumptions. Clearly, that can change. But when you're going through the evaluation period, I think you have to make the determination that the contract is the contract and the player is under a contract for a finite period.
Thank you.
Next question comes from Aisha Johnson.
Hi, Dave. This is actually Kate Rooney. I'm using my colleague's Zoom, so sorry for any confusion there. You addressed this a little bit, but just looking for something to give the fans confidence that the way you finished last season is not the way you're going to finish this season with the way the roster has been built out now.
Yeah, I think as we got into the offseason and we reflected on our 25 season, we made the determination that we had to do better and we were not going to run back the same group. And that has driven a large portion of our strategy to this point. So we're going to go into this year with, I think, a very talented group, but also a group that looks somewhat different. There are going to be a lot of guys in our clubhouse who really have no affiliation at all with what happened to us in 25. And I think that's healthy. And I think that's good for us.